Chapter 3. The next week is the busiest for Lavender House that I can remember. Patrons flock to our graces, eager to dole out exuberant amounts of coin, for Rose to smooth the bumps on their noses and plump their lips, for Marigold to enhance their dancing skills or lilt their shrill laughter. Even Laurel is beset with nobles wanting to know the perfect gift to get the princess or the style of clothing that they should wear to the celebration. And the dark race is not forgotten. For every name Delphine pens on the Grace's schedules, there seems to be two on mine. It's all the usual demands: elixirs for hair thinning, and unriddable stenches, and unsightly rashes. Anything a patron might think of to give themselves an edge against the perceived competition they'll face at the ball. It's utterly demeaning. Laurel massages her temples in the main parlor between patron visits. It's Friday, and we've seen more patrons this week than in the last month. Delphine can barely manage to fit everyone in our schedules. Her huge appointment book sits open on her desk in the alcove, quill still dripping with ink where she left it to snatch a bite from the kitchen. And it's not only Lavender House, all of the Grace houses are reeling. Is this the worth of my gift, to help a vape patron decide whether to wear pink or blue? As per the Grace laws, Laurel cannot refuse a paying patron. It's another way the Grace Council contrives to keep the Graces from showing bias among their patrons. Any Grace who refuses to use her gift, unless she has expressed permission, is punished. Usually, a larger portion of her profits are forfeited to the Crown and Grace Council, who already take their healthy cut of coin. But some Graces are brought to trial and face much steeper consequences. The last trial was a year ago, and the Grace in question was placed in a strict, punitive house where she is monitored at all times to ensure she is following the laws. You won't be griping once you can order more of your precious books. Rose bustles through the doors, stuffing a pastry bulging with strawberries and cream into her mouth. She flops onto a jade chair, and Calliope seems to materialize out of thin air, leaning her front paws on Rose's knees and wagging her plummy tail. At least I'm not wasting my income on clothes. Laurel lifts an eyebrow. Even without an encouraging elixir, Madame Laroche was able to accommodate Rose's request for a new gown, and Rose has done nothing but blabber about the fine details since she returned from the clothiers. The monstrosity of silk and lace is blushing peony, the exact same shade as Rose's hair, accented with seed pearls and rosebuds and trimmed with a fine layer of real, whisper-thin gold. I don't even want to imagine the cost. I'm not wasting my income at all. You might not care about this house's standings, but I do. No patron will visit a beauty Grace if she doesn't look at her part. Do you think anyone would bother to book appointments with me if I dressed like Alyce? She scoffs, but I ignore the jab. I want everyone in the realm to see that I'm simply swimming in coin. In fact, Rose whips her schedule from her bodice and brandishes it at us. I can hardly see the parchment for all the times and names. I've told Delphine to shorten my appointments so I can accommodate more patrons. Laurel pulls back from the schedule as if it has fangs. Why are you trying so hard? I don't know why you don't try harder. Rose scoops Calliope into her lap and nuzzles her nose into the storm of white fur. Don't you want a larger house, a wider following, invitations to the palace? I suppress the urge to groan, caring less than the pus from one of Prince Markham's wards about any of those rewards. Part of the annual Grace celebration includes a blooming ceremony, which is when the new Graces demonstrate their skills and are assigned both a house and a preliminary fee by the Grace Council. In order to keep competition between the houses fair, Graces are placed evenly throughout the district, regardless of the type or strength of their gift. In fact, lesser houses like ours often receive the more talented, newly bloomed Graces, so that we might have a chance of keeping up with the larger houses. But a Grace's placement is by no means permanent. Like the house mistresses, a Grace can be reassigned or even request a transfer from the Grace Council. Rose has been trying to wheedle her way into Willow House for years. even though they already have an exceptionally gifted beauty grace. Pearl. With several dozen graces sharing the same type of gift, it's no surprise that the rivalry between them can be fierce. Pearl has an enormous following. She earned the most coin out of all graces last year. There are even hints that she might replace one of the royal graces. Though so talented, they are given apartments at the palace and fees that can only be afforded by the richest nobles and the royal family. I am happy to work less and let my gift linger. Laurel pours more tea. Then Mistress Lavender can just leave you to wallow here when she earns her promotion. Rose leans back so her head rests against the plush curve of the chair. I plan to be her prime grace at her new house. If you haven't faded by then. I thought I'd said the words too quietly to hear, but Rose jerks upright like she's been stabbed, eyes smoldering amber. Calliope yips as Rose shoves her to the floor. My pulse speeds up. For a moment I think Rose might use her perfectly polished nails to tear into my face, instead of the silk upholstery she's currently strangling. But then her shoulders soften. Alyce. Her voice is sweet enough to make my teeth ache. Would you be a dear? You clearly have nothing to do, and I need some enhancements. She withdraws another sheaf of paper from a pocket at her waist and holds it out to me. Even from here, I can see that the writing takes up both sides. A trip to the apothecary to fetch the ingredients is bad enough so close to the ball, but then I'll have to lug the heavy sack back through the Grace district, and I'm already tired from my own day. I have a patron coming. Really? Rose raises her eyebrows. Shall we check with Delphine? I bite my tongue, gaze darting to the appointment book. I finished for today. My morning was full to the gills, but it's mid-afternoon and the nobles are busy getting ready for the dinners and parties. I could have a walk-in, which sometimes happens, but Delphine would just tell them I'm otherwise engaged and schedule a late appointment. Still, that doesn't mean I have to be Rose's errand girl. We have servants to do such chores. Oh, is that not what you are? Forgive me. She smiles snake-like, and I fight the impulse to stuff that list down her throat. But since you are free and all the servants are busy helping the graces. She bobs the paper in my direction as if offering a treat to her insipid dog. Laura looks at me, a question in her eyes. I considered just walking away, but then Rose would only whine to Mistress Lavender, who would then probably have me fetch what Rose needs anyway, along with everything on everyone else's lists. And then Rose would have the satisfaction of both winning and seeing me scolded. I grit my teeth and yanked the paper out of her hand hard enough to rip the corner. At least this way I'll get a break from her company. Rose's list is filled with the usual enhancements, flowers like juniper and mountain laurel, and others that we don't grow in our own garden. There are also robin's eggs and crow feathers and birchwood. Unlike the Ethereans themselves, who wield their magic with their staffs, a grace must employ enhancements to shape her elixirs. So when a patron wants their eyes shaded a certain color, as with Lady Dalket's frequent requests for Rose to turn hers lavender, a grace might take the desired hue from a plant and mix it with her own gilded blood. Laura uses sage and yew and mint in her elixirs to stimulate different parts of her patron's minds. I also need enhancements, though I have nowhere near the store of knowledge about my own abilities that the Graces enjoy. Grace magic has been studied since the first fae-blessed infant appeared in Briar. The number of Graces born per year varies, sometimes as many as 12, and sometimes none at all, but always female and always marked by a shock of vibrant hair, golden eyes, and golden-colored blood to match. Once identified, the infants are given over to the care of the crown and raised in nurseries where they spend their first 15 years learning their craft and determining the nature of their gift. Eventually, each is presented at a blooming ceremony to begin her work. But that was not my story. There was no bittersweet parting as my parents handed me off to Grace Council and accepted their stipend. No coddled childhood in a nursery with Grace mothers coaxing and sheltering my burgeoning gift. I was discarded, a squalling infant brought to the Grace Council by a fishmonger in the common district. All Mistress Lavender told me about the man was that he vehemently swore he wasn't my father, and that he claimed to have found me bundled into a basket in a deserted alley near the harbour. No one knows how I got there, or why I was left, or who my true parents might be. And though my blood carried a spark of magic, I wasn't permitted to taint the other Grace children in the nursery with my presence. Mistress Lavender volunteered to take me in, persuaded by a bump in salary,
and
no doubt,
of course you can leave
and sequestered
below,
me in the attic room of Lavender
I'd
House.
love to hear
20 years later, I'm still there.
and read some nice
The
comments
Grace
there.
pennants
Thank you.
in the pink, yellow, and green of our house snap above me as I push the front door open. Almost without my bidding, my gaze travels to the coral-tinged tips of the Ethereal mountain range in the north, the border between the mortal lands of Briar and the Fey courts. In Briar itself, the only magic that exists is that which the Graces and I provide with our blood. But every soul in the realm knows the stories surrounding the Ethereal lands. It's said that the soil in the Fey courts can sprout anything from treasure-bearing trees to treacle-petal flowers, each one grown from the seed of a whispered wish. That birds sing the future in their melodies. That fish can grant a heart's greatest desire if swallowed whole when caught. Nearly 1,000 years ago, Briar was only a barren wasteland. But that didn't stop countless mortals from sailing across the Carthagan Sea, marching through our future realm and trying to breach the mountains and claim the magic of the Fae. The Ethereans soon grew tired of pushing back army after army, and once Briar was established, the only mortal realm on this side of the Carthagan Sea, the first queen swore to protect the mountain border from encroaching humans. As part of this alliance, the Fae granted Briar permission to mine Ethereum, a magic-rich mineral found in the heart of the Ethereal mountains. The ground-up powder can be used to cure ailments, enhance beauty, and I've even heard that a strong enough dose can bring feelings of euphoria. With the healing graces in Briar, we have little need of Ethereum's medical properties, but the nobles in the Grace district like to keep vials on hand in order to nurse wine-soaked heads, and small dishes are always provided for patrons to enjoy in the Grace parlors. But the true bliss the mineral brings is its lucrative overseas trade. The realms across the Carthagan Sea can't get enough Ethereum, and our seemingly endless exclusive supply is the reason Briar boasts the title of wealthiest realm in the world. But not even Briar's ocean-deep coffers grant us the right to set foot beyond the mountains. Etheria belongs to the Fae alone. It's a restriction that many of the nobles complain is unjust. Some, usually drunk, even claim that they would explore Maltaire, the land where the Vila once dwelled. If I look closely enough, I can see the shadows dance in the distance, hear the cry of a lonely raven, and detect the pungent bite of sulphur, the home of my ancestors. Maltaire is abandoned now, salted with a poison that wiped out nearly all of the cursed race of Vila when humans and Ethereans banded together to end the War of the Fae. But the fact that they are near extinction doesn't curb the gruesome tales still circulating about the creatures. That the Vila plucked mortal infants straight from their cradles and replaced them with changelings. That they lured humans to their lairs and used them as slaves. That a mere look from one could turn your blood to ice or stop your heart. These stories prey in my mind every waking moment. They dig their mutinous claws into my very dreams. I see them etched into the expressions of everyone who has the misfortune of crossing my path. And with every slurred oath uttered behind my back, I am reminded, I am half Wheeler, and everyone in Briar wishes I were dead.